Welcome back. Blake Cousins here, Third Phase of Moon. Richard Martin from Mexico goes over daily the webcamsdemexico.com site to look over the volcano webcams going live. For nearly 4 years, UFOs have been a daily occurrence in the vicinity of the volcano. March 4, 2015, the official webcam, Colima, captures a gigantic triangle-shaped UFO hovering just to the west of the volcano. Incredible imagery just right here into Third Phase Moon. We want to thank Richard Martin for submitting these incredible photos and keeping a close eye out for the NASA. Expedition 43 flight engineer Scott Kelly of NASA, Soyuz commander Gennady Padaka, and flight engineer Mikhail Kornienko of the Russian Federal Space Agency docked at the International Space Station on March 27th. What was captured while this happened is simply astonishing. Take a look. If you look closely, you can see the craft has some kind of structure to it. What is it? Leave your comments below. Other anomalies popped up while this rendezvous happened above planet Earth. Take a look at this. This anomaly appears to be moving at a different speed from the Soyuz craft. As usual, NASA pulls away the camera when anomalies appear in frame. Could this be a military space exercise? Some kind of top secret mission, or are extraterrestrials visiting the ISS? Everybody leave your comments below. Keep your eyes on the skies. We're not alone. Blake Cousins. We'll see you again next time.
Phase.
We at Third Phase of Moon are putting this footage out due to the fact that we believe that it should be seen. It's not up to us to suppress footage or not share what's coming in regards to this kind of phenomenal catch. What it is, we're not sure, but we're happy to get Ed in. Ed, thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase.
Hey Blake, thanks for contacting me. What did you think of the footage?
Well, there are a few things that I want to go over with you in detail. Thanks for being with us right here. First of all, you know, it almost looks like a movie. It looks so beautiful. It almost looks like some kind of big budget Hollywood thing. What was it like?
I'm sorry. I don't want to laugh at you, but you got to hear the story. I appreciate you saying it looks beautiful, and I got to tell you, Blake, this is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in terms of just the awe, the spectacle. You could probably see at one point the wind moving the trees, the energy, the motion that was happening as a result of this craft was just amazing.
Well, that's what I like.
What's that?
Yeah, sorry, Ed, for interrupting, but you mentioned the trees. As this craft or whatever it was passed over, you could see that's what made us decide to put this out here, is because of this interaction with the craft and trees in itself. It seemed like it left some kind of wind behind. Did you? What did it feel like?
I actually sent it to you twice. I didn't know if you'd gotten it first because I didn't hear back from you right away like I usually did. So I sent it to you again. So I'm glad you're asking about it because I am just still in awe over that. I've had many experiences, but this one was unlike any other in terms of the spectacle. It was just the perfect time. And, you know, you might notice that there's someone else in the shop. My neighbor, who lives on the parcel down the road from me, I never met him. He came and knocked on my door, and he asked me if I had seen anything. And, you know, I wanted to meet my neighbor and be kind, but, you know, I just said, why don't you come over? And he came over, and I had a feeling we were going to experience something, Blake. And, you know, I got all set up. I'm not a professional cameraman, but I have been doing this, and I have got a tripod and my camera there, and I had a feeling. And he brought his camera, too, and he got some still shots. You might see at one point, right before it takes off, you could see he actually steps in front of the camera, and I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm, like, pushing him out of the way. He's trying to get his own shots. I haven't talked to him about third phase of the moon. He left the experience at a loss for words. I always am, and I have a hard enough time talking to you on the phone. But my neighbor's name is Dustin. I'm not going to give out his last name, and I think I'm going to be able to get you some still photographs from him as well. But that footage that I just sent you, unbelievable. Wasn't it just special, wasn't it?
What is special? It is a incredible sight, and what I like is that you have another person besides yourself now that captured
I've always had other people there, but as you know, I've told you time and again, this is not my career. This is not my deal. It's not even my focus in life. I learned a long time ago that telling people what I've seen, even showing them stuff that I've seen, that's not going to get me anywhere in this life.
Let me ask you this, Ed. When you had this experience with Dustin, they're absolutely, a clear image of the video itself. There is that flashing light in front of the lens. You're saying you're trying to call him down?
Blake, I've seen this craft before. I've experienced it before. I had contact with the life form on the craft, but I've seen it, and I remember it. I've seen it more than a couple of times in different parts of the country. But, I've been shooting, and I've been collecting data and film, and I have, the equipment that I have today is not what I had 30 years ago when I first seen this craft, is what I'm trying to say. And what I have now is as best equipment as I've ever had, and I even got a laser pointer now. And, again, I'm not making a career of this. I have this happening in my life because I'm chosen or I'm special. I don't know the reason. Where I live, I don't know. I've been over and over with you guys about my history. But, thank goodness we're living in the day we live. We got the technology we have now. The cameras that I have now are not the ones that I had 30 years ago. But even so, this sighting was dramatic.
Let me ask you this.
The footage, Blake, you could see it yourself.
Yeah, everybody's looking at this footage. We invite anybody to take a look at Ed's footage. That's why we put it out there. We've decided that I think people should analyze it, blow it up, see if...
And I got to interrupt you and let you know this thing. I don't have any powers. I can't summon these things. Why do I have these sightings and others don't? Or maybe others do and they're just not talking about it. I'm talking about it. I'm sharing it. But, this was quite incredible. Really a beautiful spectacle. And to have my neighbor, Dustin, witness it with me, it made it even more, special.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Ed, is about Dustin's experience after this footage was captured.
Blake, I hate to interrupt you, but you got to slow down. Because as I said, he's my neighbor. And up until a few days ago, I never had more than a couple of words with him just passing by. He came and knocked on my door. I invited him over, and I had a feeling, and this is what happened. So as far as him, validating, he got some stills he's going to share with me, and I'll ask him about sharing them with y'all. But you'll have to ask him those questions yourself. I don't know him well enough. It's a difficult subject.
Let me ask you, the question is, Ed, what was Dustin's reaction after this encounter? It was so, when you look at it, it's incredible. It's amazing. What was the reaction?
Blake, I don't know the man well enough. What I can tell you is that his reaction was nothing. It was nothing. There was no reaction. I'm not saying he was cold. I'm not saying he was mean. I'm not saying... I'll certainly tell you this. He wasn't doing jumping jacks. He wasn't screaming and yelling. He was watching. And when we finished, we said goodbye and he left. And I've talked to him since, and he's told me he got these stills, but, this is an incredible experience we all had. And it's special. So, the best I can offer you, I don't know if I'm answering your question, is I'll try to get a hold of him, and I'll follow up with him, and I'll say, hey, can I see your stills, and you mind if I share them with some friends of mine? That's about the best I can do for you.
Wow, Ed, incredible. I'm glad that you keep in touch with Third Phase Moon. You're keeping us, keeping an open mind to what you're capturing over there. And I'm hoping that Dustin could come forward and you get in touch with him.
No promises on that front. But I will contact him, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't share your stills. But, you're asking me questions I can't answer, and I sound tongue-tied. I apologize for that, but I appreciate you folks. I appreciate you folks, Blake and your brother Brent, and your third phase of Moon. I think what you're doing is great. It certainly is good for me. It gives me a place to share, and that's all I'm looking for. And I have no control over what comes of this. I'm not looking for celebrity, and I know my neighbor Dustin's not. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being there.
Ed, this is incredible, and this footage is one of the most amazing shots, like you said, that's coming into third phase of Moon over the past year. You always get these incredible shots. That's what amazes me. But your testimony on the ground is what people want to hear as well.
Well, what I can tell you, Blake, is that I got some new equipment. I got a new tripod, and I got a new camera, and that's one of the reasons why I invited my neighbor Dustin over. And I also went and got this laser pointer so that I could point out in the sky where I'm going. And I got to tell you, I mentioned earlier that I don't think I have the power to summon or can't explain why I have all these sightings. But I had a feeling tonight as I shot this on the 11th that it was going to happen. And I got to tell you that I think that the laser pointer, I know this sounds crazy, but the laser pointer was almost of interest to the craft. It was almost like my pointing it brought it out to a visible station. And I don't know if that's true or not. That's just the gut feeling I had. You could see in the footage this craft is, essentially the size of the house, 35 feet by 25 feet, and moving in the sky at a speed that is just surreal. I mean, it's nothing like I can tell you. You got to see it for yourself to understand. But you could see it in the house, foreground, and then by the tree, and then, my goodness, the energy. It wasn't like a gust of wind. It was more like an energy sense of steadiness that caused wind. And it was almost less wind, if that makes any sense, that you thought you'd be feeling. You could see it, but then you couldn't really feel it. There was no sound, as usual, no sound at all. But the energy was unmistakable.
Wow, Ed, what would you have to say to people around the world listening to us right now at Third Phase of Moon, looking at your footage? Should they be keeping an eye out for these things?
Yeah, they want to. I can't tell anyone what to do in their world, in their lives. Sure, go down like I did and spend a couple of $100 on getting some new equipment. It was a long time past my due to upgrade what I've been using. I think the last time I made a purchase was back in the 1990s. But, it's good to have new equipment, and, I don't know what to tell you. This is an experience that I really am glad I would have a forum with Third Phase of Moon to share with.
Wow, Ed, it's quite amazing. It's like you have stepped up and you're getting this really amazing footage. Now you got a partner involved, Dustin. I'm hoping that
hold your horses on that one. Again, this is a neighbor of mine. He's not a close personal friend. What can I say? I'm having a tough time talking with you tonight.
Did you ask him?
These kind of experiences leave you speechless. I'm not a well-educated man. I don't have a lot of...
Ed, did you ask Dustin if he's going to share these stills that he's captured?
I will. I told you I will. I'll ask him. I see no reason why he wouldn't. But I can't promise you anything more than that. I'll reach out to him. Who knows? Maybe he'll call you on the phone and get on your radio program.
All right, Dustin, if you're listening, Third Phase of Moon, when we put this video up, hey, contact Ed, contact Third Phase of Moon. Reach out. We'd like to see these pictures, this collaboration. We see in the video there's two people, the cameraman, yourself, and Dustin, as you say, in front of this shot, getting out of the way, and then this UFO taking off, a cylindrical UFO, and almost looks something straight out of, like a Close Encounters third kind in your face video. People are going to say...
Blake, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I apologize for that. But I got to tell you, I thought we were going to have a visitation. I thought this was going to be one of those moments because the experience was so, it was amazing, amazing. I really thought that we were going to have contact. And, I kind of pushed Dustin out of the way at one point, and I almost grabbed him at the same time because I was like, "Get ready, we're gonna have a visitation at this point." And I don't know, maybe he did, maybe I didn't, and he did. Again, when this was done, we kind of said our goodbyes, and that was good night, and I'll talk to you soon. And we talked a little bit, but this kind of experience leaves you speechless. What do you say?
Ed, incredible, and thanks again for joining us right here at Third Phase.
Thank you very much, Blake, and your brother Brent too, and I appreciate you guys being there.
You know what we want in the future, and stay safe over there, and reach out to your neighbor Dustin, is that we want to get interviews with you. We want to be on location. Meet the man. Meet Ed.
I can't promise you anything, but I will tell you this. I appreciate Third Phase of Moon and you guys saying be safe. I gotta tell you, as awe-inspiring as this experience is, and all my encounters, I gotta honestly tell you, I'm not a macho man, but there's no fear involved. There's no fear here. There's no fear. There's no Hindenburg. This is no atrocity. This is the life we're living, and it's amazing.
Wow. With that, Ed, thanks again for joining us. We'll be keeping in touch with you in the next couple days. Have your phone close by, Ed.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Ed. And we're going to continuously show some more footage right here at Third Phase of Moon, some close-ups, some analyzations, some brightness contrast. Everybody around the world watching this right now, if you've seen anything like this and have captured it, share it with us right here at Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins, keep your eyes on the skies, people. We're not alone. We'll see you again next time. Here, Third Phase of Moon, all the way from Michigan. We got Dan Warner and Alex Guevara, all the way from Michigan. They're capturing TR-3Bs in the night sky. They got their night vision equipment. They're here right now live via Skype, and we're going to go over their incredible captures. And we put this video out yesterday. There's all kinds of comments. People have their own opinions of what's been captured. In my opinion, I believe this is reverse alien technology that we're seeing. Dan, hey, thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase of Moon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And Alex, you made contact with us right here at Third Phase of Moon. You're there at ET Care, and you wanted to get the word out. Let me ask you, when did you get into this UFO hunting?
Well, it actually started with a story my father's been telling me my whole life about when he was a captain in the U.S. Army back in 1962. He was stationed in Puerto Rico, and one day, coming home from the beach, he looks up and he sees 4 black discs traveling from northeast to southwest over the island. And he's been telling me this story my whole life, and I figured maybe he just had a little too much rum to drink that day. But the way he told this story to me and the consistency, literally for the last 40 years, I decided a few years ago to actually start checking into looking at this subject more seriously. And Blake, I was astounded at what I found. The witness testimony, the documents that have been uncovered, the trace case evidence, the serious researchers now that have been doing this, Dr. Stanton Friedman, the godfather of ufology, and Richard Dolan. I don't know if you've read any of his books, but absolutely a fabulous author, and Dr. Stephen Greer, and Linda Moulton Howe, and Edgar Mitchell, and the list goes on and on and on. This is absolutely the most incredible field to be looking into right now. It is the most incredible story in the history of human history, and as you know, almost nobody knows.
Dan, you're working with this night vision equipment. We shared your setup. Tell me, how did you guys get introduced to each other, and what got you started into looking for these UFOs?
Well, what got me into the UFOs was probably 5-10 years ago. I was on a business trip, and compared to the traffic, the air traffic that was flying near it, when I was coming back from South Carolina, I saw a craft that had to be a 1/4 mile in diameter,
inadvertently slipped out of the base of a thunderstorm.
Wow.
And then realized it was out and went back in. So recently, I got a Christmas bonus and spent that all on the night vision, and probably shouldn't have because there was other bills that needed to be paid, but got to get some good night vision sometime. So the day I got it, I was supposed to also get a camcorder. The camcorder was being delivered after we left because it ended up being a day late. Got it up north, stuck it up in the sky, and all night long there was one little thing zinging around the whole sky. It was doing right angle turns. Gave it to the wife, showed her, she's watching it zing all over, right angle turns, all these things that we couldn't be doing. I pulled out my laser and tried to hit it, and I couldn't hit it. The faster I tried to hit it, the faster it'd avoid it. I was getting about as fast as I could go, and then it shot off into space. Turned off the laser, trying to look for it. Bright flash, came back, started zipping around. Then, when it came back, I decided not to bother it anymore because I obviously upset it. So I watched it zip around the rest of the night, gave it to other people, talked about it, went to bed, woke up the next day and never saw my laser again. So then, last winter, Alex he pulled down a list from Greer's. I donated to the Sirius movie, and he got my name off that. He was having a CE5 out here, so that's where I ended up meeting him. We did a CE5 out in the Auburn Hills, and there was one thing that we saw go by. They were always looking at some other part of the sky at the time, though, but we did have something show up then.
So Blake, what we're finding is that and we really stress at ET Care, which stands for Extraterrestrial Contact Activism Research and Education, we really stress education and activism because we believe that if disclosure is going to happen, it's going to really be up to you and I and everybody else on the planet. Governments are so entrenched in their secrecy and have been for decades, as we know, dating all the way back to the 40s, that it's really going to be up to us. We have to push. We have to push and keep pushing and educating people. And what Dan and I realize is that the majority of people have no idea what's going on. Those that have some idea there's misinformation and disinformation mixed all in with truth, as you know, and they really don't know exactly what to think of all of it. And then the very few people that actually have a good picture of it just feel so overwhelmed they don't know what to do. And so the message I'd like to share with everybody is certainly look at sites like Third Phase of Moon so you can stay on top of what's happening today, but also go back in history and do your homework so you can see dating all the way back to the early 40s. And of course, extraterrestrials have been visiting our planet for thousands of years. We know that. But the history really started heating up around the Second World War when we started detonating nuclear weapons. And when you talk to Greer and Dolan and all these researchers, they're all in agreement on that we are being watched. And so I would urge everybody to do your homework, learn the history. People can download a chronologic history from our website that has links dated all the way back to the 40s to today of all the major events that have happened. Get informed and get involved. Be an advocate, be an activist, write your congressman, demand disclosure, because when disclosure happens, our world is going to change forever.
Close encounters of the fifth kind, Dr. Stephen Greer asked people that, if they want to summon them themselves, they could use these techniques. Is this what was happening during this night vision capture of what looks to be a triangular-shaped craft in the sky?
That recent one that I believe you have up now was just, it's freezing here, so I just set the camera out on the back porch and let it run, and then watched it, I think it was 2 or 3 days later. I got back to it and found that on there. So there wasn't a CE5 going on at the time.
The craft that we captured back on November 2nd, there was a CE5 at that particular location that was going on when we captured it. the question I always ask myself, and I do believe that consciousness is a very important part of this, and we all know from studying the extraterrestrial phenomenon that it appears that many extraterrestrial species are telepathic, which is a much higher state of consciousness and ability to communicate telepathically. So there certainly is consciousness involved. Now, the question I always wonder about CE5 is, and maybe it should be tested, is does it make much of a difference whether you're doing a CE5 or not into the quantity of phenomena you're going to see on any given night? I think that should probably be put to the test. I don't think anybody's done it yet. I think that would be an interesting experiment.
When we've had enough of a turnout, like 20 people or more, there's always been something. But then lately when I've been doing the recordings all night long, there usually ends up being something there anyway. So exactly if the CE5 has anything to do with it or not remains to be seen.
I must admit, though, I was at Contact in the Desert last year, and I think you're going this year. I saw your name on the roster. I was at Contact in the Desert last year, and I did sit in on Dr. Stephen Greer's the one-night CE5 he did there. And I have to say that at that CE5, doing the group meditation, I did see what I thought was my first extraterrestrial craft. And it was amazing. I was sitting there talking to a friend, and it what appeared at first to be just a shooting star traveling from north to south at about 12 o'clock, directly in front of me, and probably about 80 degrees in front of me. As it passed directly in front of my view, it flared up to about half the size of the moon and held its size, a bright white glowing ball. And it traversed about another 10 degrees, from like 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, holding this bright position. And then it powered down to its original size, traveled from about 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then just winked out. Now, some people say, well, that's a meteor, an asteroid. Well, no. I mean, it wasn't flaring. It wasn't, it wasn't undulating in terms of light. It was a perfectly round sphere, perfectly quiet, traveling at the same speed. I don't know what it was, but I can tell you that being at a CE5 and seeing that was an amazing experience. Hey, I got one last question for you. What's your gut feeling on MUFON?
Well, as far as MUFON's concerned, we've had insight that, Bigelow Aerospace, Mr. Bigelow himself, offered them close to $1 million to take information from them for over a year. And whatever came to MUFON, if Bigelow wanted to hold it for himself, which he probably did, paying that kind of money, he wanted the information up front. So to me, it seems like MUFON got infiltrated. Also, you got to think to yourself, MUFON, they really never follow up on people's reports. I guarantee you'll send them your video and they'll never get back to you or give you much credit, and that you put it out in the public domain where everybody will just go ahead and take your video and not give any credit where credit's due. So, MUFON might be broken, but they could be, maybe on the rebound. But in this case, I think Third Phase of Moon is the most, liquid way and quickest way to share it to the masses as fast as it's possibly possible on the internet. With 220,000 subscribers, the word gets out. So MUFON, maybe they're getting on the right track, what I've heard maybe, but once it's broken, it's pretty hard to fix.
Well, I'm convinced that they were infiltrated by the CIA. I mean, I had some direct phone call conversations with Jan Harzen, and these guys are like, they're just completely out of touch, man. And actually, I heard a guy on your show once telling about how he sent his stuff to MUFON and the CIA showed up on his doorstep. Yeah, I agree with you. We don't send our stuff to MUFON anymore. We're going to send our stuff to you first, and you're going to take it from there. So
I did it once and learned my lesson. I sent them that triangle. I think you had it. One good one where we're doing the CE5 and they flew by. And that was case 61223. They got a lot of hits, but I think their overall conclusion was that it was a DC-10 or something, because a DC-10 has 3 lights on it. There's absolutely no way that.
Well, they're just an extension of Project Blue Book. They're there to debunk everything. So.
And once you do have something, they never get back to you.
We're just going to shut it down.
So let me ask you, Dan, Alex, what's next for you, and how can people reach out to you if they want to figure out how to work the equipment like you're working this night vision, and what is happening? Are you guys going to be doing more UFO hunts in the future?
Plan to do them just about every clear night. We have a local group in the area that's going to be doing CD5s on I think a bi-weekly basis out in a clear area up in the thumb. So we're going to try to make those as often as we can. As far as the inquiries go, I've been having a lot of inquiries about the total setup and details and everything. So I think this weekend I'm going to try to get together video and go through all the details of setup, how everything's made, the layout, how everything fits together. There's all the little details that you need to know to build the system that I have.
Alex?
Just a quick word. Dan made a reference to the thumb. If us people in Michigan, we carry a map of Michigan on our hand because Michigan. Do I have it the right way? Maybe it's that way, or maybe I can't really tell. So, anyways, Michigan looks like a hand, and when Dan says the thumb, he's talking about this particular place out here, out in the middle of the Great Lakes, and the visibility there is incredible. We have perfectly pitch black skies, and of course, out on these lakes, which are like oceans, you can see forever. And so we have a CD5 group that goes up there just about every weekend during the summer and does a lot of CD5 work, and Dan's going to be taking the gear up there to see what we can capture. So, Blake, we're going to be sending you a whole lot more stuff, so get ready. And we really, really appreciate what you do for us. ET Care is not one of these things. We don't sell anything. We don't market anything. What we do is we try to support people that are working hard at ET Disclosure, like you and all the other researchers, to get the word out. So we're going to keep funneling you some great video, and we again really appreciate you putting us on Third Phase of Moon.
Wow, Alex, Dan, incredible videos submitted right here. You've been doing great work over there. We look forward to sharing more of your incredible evidence that comes in. You guys keep your eyes on the skies, stay safe, and let me ask you one last thing. Dan, what happened to your laser pointer after this encounter that you had? Do you think that you're trying to chase them down with the laser, and they're just like, no, man, we don't play that game?
Yeah, they weren't playing that game. I was getting faster and faster, and it's like they were magnetically programmed to avoid it. Shot off into space, came back. Anyways, after that, it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock. I went to bed, and then when I woke up, never found it again. We tore the camper apart. We were out camping up north. Tore the camper apart. My wife and I looked for it everywhere. I stuck it right next to the bed and saw it. It was right there, and then all of a sudden it wasn't right there, and we never found it again. Never turned up, so I just bought another one.
Wow, unexplained events, guys. Appreciate you sharing your information right here at Third Phase. Third Phase of Moon, incredible interview coming up with Robert Morningstar from New York City. He's a civil analyst over there, and also a psychotherapist. He has his degree in New York City, and also an FAA pilot, expert in the Chinese language, and has been studying UFOs and the paranormal for over 40 years now. He's an editor at UFO Digest and written many books and articles on the internet in regards to the JFK assassination and UFO cover-ups. We're going to be going to the moon, though, right now. He's been studying the moon, all kinds of anomalies coming up in photographs that have been captured by NASA themselves, the Apollo missions. Robert Morningstar, welcome to Third Phase of Moon.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you.
All right, Robert. Now let's get busy right here on some of these images coming straight from NASA. This image, can you give us some explanation in what you think this is, and how did you discover this photograph?
If you're talking about the one that I call Big Ben on the Moon, which is that black tower, you may have a blue tinted photograph of it, which is a still photo shot off a 42-inch monitor to get backlighting on a really dark image. However, what it shows is a spire that's in a region of the moon just beyond the Mare Crisium. It's in a region called the Mare Marginis, and it's pretty far north. And this is one of several towers that I have discovered, or rediscovered, I should say, going over many photographs of Apollo lunar orbiter, NASA photographs, and the Russians got my they piqued my curiosity. I sent you a really good example of a Zond 8 photograph, which I believe shows how sharp the photography the Russians were using in the 1970s. It rivals what NASA releases today. Of course, NASA has tremendous resources and even higher resolution than they release. And often when they release a photo, there are missing spaces, blocked out forms. I sent you some last night, were color photographs from Clementine that look really great when you look at them from afar. And when you zoom in, you start to see blotches and transparencies, including white rectangles over the centers of craters, obscuring or blocking out what's inside the crater. So, I've made a habit of looking around in places like that. When I find, let's say, something that's been smudged over in one region, I say, well, what are they hiding there? So you start your search for looking for other photographs taken by other spacecraft or other countries, and I've found quite a lot of anomalies on the moon. And my interest over the last few years, I would say the last 8 or 10 years, has been the far side of the moon. In particular, the region of the Mare Orientale, which is the biggest impact crater on the moon. It's never visible from Earth, and the Russians were the first ones to take photographs of that. Back in the early days of the Zond missions, really grainy stuff. But even then you could see that there were very, very strange formations on the far side of the moon, and radically different than what we see on the near side of the moon.
The mystery and the exploration continues. Let me ask you, Robert, these towers that come up in these photographs, you say there's multiple towers on the moon. Let's go over this in detail, and how tall are these structures?
Well, you can see from the Zond 8 X02 photograph. It's spectacular. That's the whole moon taken in one shot. Really, it's almost perfect as far as getting the North Pole to the South Polar regions, the details, even in the darkest areas at the bottom of the photograph. The Russians captured something phenomenal in that photograph, and there's so much material there. And my purpose in being on your show, besides saying how much I admire your show, how entertaining it's been for the last year watching all of your UFO videos, is to encourage people to dive in and do their own research. You know, I'm just one guy, good set of eyes, but it's just two eyes. And I encourage people, and we now have a network of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are doing this kind of work, and each one is contributing something. So my purpose is to encourage astronomy clubs and individuals to take up the study of the moon, charting, navigation, learn the craters, and I actually teach two things. I teach navigation of the moon, but I also teach remote viewing. And when I teach a remote viewing course, the last class is a group venture to remote view the moon, like Ingo Swann did. If you read his book Penetration, you'll see Ingo Swann of the Stargate Project succeeded in exploring the moon very, very deeply and methodically for DARPA. And I recommend that book. It's on the internet. It's called Penetration, Ingo Swann, S-W-A-N-N. And do yourself a favor, expand your universe. So that's my purpose of being here. But the tower itself, I mean, I was the most surprised person on planet Earth to come upon that photograph. You're the first person with whom I've shared the entire Apollo photograph where that tower appears. And that's Apollo 17 M2366. And you can't see it. You see the whole moon, you see, well, it's actually about the upper third of the moon. And you don't see it until you go in and go right into the horizon. And I was looking at the pictures kind of sideways. You know, I've rectified it. Basically, I put the horizon on a horizontal plane, but the photographs having been shot from space, they were orbiting the moon, so the moon was here and the spacecraft was going around. So all the photographs have all the black sky here, the curve of the moon here. And so I'm going through, and all of a sudden, I see this spire sticking out, if I could show, yeah, a spire sticking out of the contour of the moon's, the limb of the moon, and I did a double take, and then I went in, and it's a very beautiful thing to see. I've heard about it for 40 years. When the Apollo astronauts came back in the 70s, yes, they clamped down on it, but the lid wasn't as tight. And there was talk and chatter about what they'd really seen, and these things about the towers on the moon had been in the rumor mill, let's call it. But the Russians came up with these Zond photographs, the Tower of Babel photograph that I've shown you. I've sent it to you, I hope you'll show on the show. That's the white version of the tower. That is amazing, intriguing, and the idea that NASA couldn't find that thing when the Russians have taken 3 photographs of it, and so we had 6 missions to the moon. How they didn't see that, I have to ask myself, where were they looking? But as you can see in the Zond 8 photo, the tower is there, casting a shadow much like a sundial. And that one, the one with the insect in the corner where I took it off and enlarged it, that is that tower. If you do your navigation, here's how you do navigation. You take the Mare Orientale, which has a lot of very distinct contours, 2 concentric rings of mountain from the impact, and lay a compass on it, so you choose one point north, and then you do run a course from the Mare Orientale, run it a line, a radius from it to your chosen point, then get other photographs where you see a piece of the Mare Orientale, and you lay the same compass on it, and then you do triangulation if you can, or at least 2 lines, and then you home in on these things. I sent you a 4-panel composite of something called Ellerman Tower, which is one of my favorite discoveries. There are 4 panels. One is a Zond 1, the other one is Zond 3, and I think the other one is Zond 8. And then there's a Clementine photo, and it shows you how I saw a very smudgy little mark in a very crude black and white photograph taken by the Russians, and it drew my attention. It just didn't belong there, even in this kind of rough, out of focus state. Then I looked for more photos. Then the next mission took a closer photo of it, a sharper photo with a different light regimen. And then, I have 2 pictures. And then years went by, and I got the 3rd picture. And so I'm homing in over years of time. And so now I know this region, the Element Crater region, which is in the southern regions of the Mare Orientale. And then I just chanced on this Clementine photo, which was composed of 22.5 million individual photos. And I have this knack, I don't know where it comes from, but I'll just see something or a thumbnail, and click, automatic, without even thinking about it, boom, and what jumps out? That tower. I mean, I didn't even have to search the picture. I went blick, zoomed in once, boom, and it's sticking up there, as they say, like a sore thumb. Now, the thing about Ellerman Crater is that the NASA photographs always give you overhead shots of it. And the Russians took slant angle shots of it, and it's kind of like the Devil's Tower, in the movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Ellerman Crater rises right up. It's miles and miles high, but they always give you this flat, plain view over the top. But the Russians had taken these slant angles on it. And so on this crater is something that looks like a crater on the rim, but to me it seems it's completely artificial. In the other photographs that I've studied of it, when I enhance the tower, let's call one the crater, and then there's the tower that comes out of it. So when I've analyzed that surface, what I would call the satellite dish area of that tower, it divides pretty evenly into 3 sections. And impact craters don't do that. And so that's one thing that leads me to say that that's artificial, and that we haven't been given the real picture of Ellerman Crater yet. But that's the closest one. The slant view of Clementine photo is excellent. Let me see what else I showed you. I showed you photos that I've come across in the archives, the Apollo 17 surface photos, that strange anomaly in the sky, which some people say is a UFO, a very, very strange, and like damaged construction, perhaps ancient. And I think it may also be, rather than a UFO, the top of a tower. They're so far beyond the horizon that you can't see the bottom, that the sunlight is hitting the top of it, spilling over, but you can't see the bottom of it because it is so far. And there is, if you look at the Apollo 17 photo of the Big Ben on the moon, you'll notice that it has an incline. It's kind of slanting back. Now that's very important because that incline indicates that that structure is much farther beyond the horizon than you think. It's not on the horizon. Were it on the horizon, you would see it vertically. But the moon falls away so rapidly that structures, let's say if you're up here looking at a tower in New York, it would be, let's say, like this. And if you were on a ship going away, you'd see New York sinking slowly under the horizon like that. Well, if you were on the moon, that would happen much more rapidly, and the effect is that a tower that looks like this looks like that. And so the pitch back is a very important indicator in this photograph that we are not seeing the entire structure. We may be seeing the upper half or the upper 2/3, but we don't know. But it is definitely beyond the horizon and quite a distance. So I'm intrigued by that photograph. I was tempted to call it Empire State Building on the moon, being from New York, but that big bright light in the center of it reminded me of Big Ben, having been there. So I like to use, creative titles and things that resonate.
Robert, what about this Edgar Mitchell photograph? We've had Edgar Mitchell on the show right here at Third Phase of Moon, and he claims he's got insight that there is a cover-up and aliens have visited Earth and they're here. What about this photograph?
I know Edgar. Well, that photo is one that I discovered studying the Apollo 14 mission to Fra Mauro. And I actually met Edgar Mitchell in New York in 2007 when he spoke at the Explorers Club. And we stayed in contact. So I came across these photographs that were supposed to be panoramic shots taken on the moon by Edgar Mitchell. He was supposed to stand in place and line them up so that they could do a room with a panoramic, so they could take these movie photos and join them, Hasselblads and really giant ones. They're going to have a room where you could walk in and see and feel like you were on the surface of the moon in the Fra Mauro region. But I noticed in the photographs there were two photographs of one rock. And the second photograph, the rock was bigger. So I said, well, I know the mission is supposed to be, why did he run up to that rock to take the second picture? These were thumbnails, you see? So I was intrigued. Why two pictures of the same rock? Why is the second rock bigger? There must have been something of curiosity about that rock that he chose to go from one position and get closer to the rock. So I bring up both pictures, and as I brought them both up, I noticed that the difference wasn't really the rock, but something in the sky. And in the second photograph is that object. And I enhanced the photograph, and I shared it with Edgar Mitchell, and he and I and another astronaut had a talk. I sent it to him, and he said, well, Robert, there really is something there. And then he offered this explanation. He said it could be something floating down from the Apollo spacecraft. Very tactful answer, but I don't buy it because I've seen that object in other photographs, and it's huge. It's the structure, the texture, but the interesting thing is the shape of it. The shape of it is almost like a shoe. The sole, the contour. I call it a foot. A footprint. It's kind of an odd foot. It's got a curve and a bend in it, so I just call it. It's got a footprint. But I found that shape in a 1959 photograph taken by an astronomer named Jesse Wilson, in which he captured about 34, 36 UFOs leaving the northern section of the moon from the region where Apollo 17 landed, in the northern highlands. They landed in the Taurus Littoral Valley. So this 1959 photograph by Jesse Wilson shows two sets of UFOs rising, turning, and then flying by that as if that were a space station or a mothership or some sort of reviewing authority. And I do believe there is an authority on the moon, and it's not us.
Absolutely, Robert. And I think, some of these photos that Russia took of these towers, I think NASA's actually captured the same thing. They're just not sharing that with us right now.
How could they not? That was my question. It was facetious. How could NASA not find the Tower of Babel when the Russians had already provided, at least five photographs of it? And if I deduced where it's located from that Zond 8 photograph, how hard would it be for an astronaut to scope it out just flying by? You can't miss it. They're gigantic. But then again, here's another thing. You can't miss it if you're looking. But all the astronauts had a really tight schedule. Every second, every minute had this schedule to it. And they were doing their tasking. And what really got to see the views were the cameras that were on. These were automatic photographs that were being shot. So by the Apollometric camera that captured Big Ben on the moon.
Wow, Robert, we got a few minutes left right here at Third Phase of the Moon. I really want to thank you for joining us, sharing this incredible insight from Chinese presidents to Edgar Mitchell's, thoughts as he's traveling through space. Incredible. And, having an eye out for these things, these strange anomalies, and maybe NASA's hiding something. I'm pretty sure they are. Robert Morningstar, any last words here?
Well, keep your eyes open and do your work, and you have good eyes. I saw you picked up those other towers before I told you about them, and that's what I'm saying. Some things are obvious, and you have to stand up for your reality. I mean, you know what I mean? For me to say, look, I believe my reality. I don't care what NASA says. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That's a tower on the moon.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. The pictures, the shadows, it's basically smoking gun evidence right there. Robert, how do people get in touch with you? What's your website?
Well, the websites, if you want to read material on UFOs or lunar studies and many other writers besides myself, it's ufodigest.com. But I'm on Facebook, and that's where you can contact me directly. I have an open page. And I'm the one that has the head of a dolphin as the avatar, because I espouse the mind of the dolphin. I was involved in a lot of work in artificial intelligence and interspecies communication long ago. I continue it today. So the dolphin is a good guy. And that's how you recognize me on Facebook. And the other one is the avatar. Next to the avatar is the photo of a structure that I call the Sentinel. And 3 photographs of that structure were taken by Apollo 10. And NASA says that it's a 1.5 foot piece of mylar. So I would like you to go to my website and see if you believe that that's a 1.5 foot piece of mylar.
Well, that's it, everybody. Third Phase Moon, Robert Morningstar. Thanks again for joining us again.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that's it, people. Everybody, keep your eyes on the skies. And if you captured anything incredible, submit it to Third Phase of Moon via Skype, Facebook. We're here standing by. Play cousins. We'll see everybody again next time.
Phase of the Moon.